Hello, Reds. It's live at 3 minutes past 5 with me, Gareth Roberts, and him, Paul Cope. Don't be a knobhead about the time. I needed to get a brew and go for a piss and stuff like that.
Chill out.
Yeah, chill the fuck out. It's live at 5. Today, we will... It is live at 5 and we do stuff like that. I'll start again. Today, we will be swimming in Mikel Arteta's tears as we reflect on a belter of a match at the Emirates for top of the league Liverpool FC. We'll be asking where Ben White gets his tan, whether the mentality monsters are back, and whether the transitional Reds could end up winning the Jarg Quadruple. So get your comments in and let's go. We'll be around for about an hour and the heating isn't working, Ian. No, very, very good perceptive comment from Ian already in the comments. I was about to ask for comments straight away. He said, "There's the heating not working?" Yeah, there's been a power cut in the studio. The power is obviously back on, hence we're here. But what also happened is the room went very cold. And look, I'm Nash, so what? Right, okay.
Yeah, so, our middle-agedness outweighs our desire to look cool.
Yeah, and we never look cool anyway, do we? Use ours. Anyway, and if you want to do all that super chat, super like thing, oh, look at that. Right on time. Cash in order. I got it right without your brackets. First time I managed to watch live and you're 3 minutes late. Up the Reds. Innit? Ian says Kopi's nipples gave it away. That it was cold. Yeah. Whatever you get off on there, back to the footy. Back to Liverpool winning 2-0 at the Emirates. Some game, wasn't it? In the end, I mean, it wasn't some game as it started. It was a terrible start. But ultimately, what a game, what a win that was. And it's absolutely brilliant seeing the Arsenal meltdown.
I thought it was a boss game anyway. Like, even in the first half, I mean, we're going to talk about Shearer being a bellend. But,
oh, yeah. The thumbhead.
Like, the narrative around footy often and the story that evolves around it and stuff. I thought there were times in the first half where we looked all right. We got on the ball, we slowed the game down. Considering it was a team of lads who Klopp himself said afterwards, no rhythm, there was lots of changes. Yeah. That connection wasn't quite there. You're playing Arsenal at home. They've drawn against us at Anfield a couple of weeks ago. They're desperate to beat us. They've come out the blocks, all guns blazing. Same as when we played United the other week. Our goalie wasn't man of the match, was he? Do you know what I mean? Alisson wasn't pulling off world-class saves left, right and centre. And we had a couple of our own opportunities even in the first half, like where it was the pass before the pass broke down or whatever. We didn't quite make the most of things. I just thought it was a good game all round, do you know what I mean? And I mean, we'll get into all of this, but the narrative around it, some of the comments on it, it's fucking mad to me. You're like, yes, mate, you had chances and you didn't take them and then we scored.
Yeah, and that happens in
that's
footy.
That's a game out, that's how footy goes.
We were lethal.
We all know, if you could have frozen time after 40 minutes, right, and said to everyone in that ground and everyone watching, Arsenal fans and Liverpool fans, how do you think this game's likely to play out now? And no matter which way round you are in that game, you would say the same thing. If we don't start taking our fucking chances, they're going to go up the other end and score a goal. How many times have we been in that game where you're at home and you're like, fucking hell, if we don't take one of these chances soon, you're playing against Liverpool, for fuck's sake. You know how clinical we can be. You know how in transition, there was a stat before the game about speed of attack. Did you see that? I don't know where I saw it. I think it was on the BBC. What was that?
That's a new one.
Speed of attack. Speed of attack. Yeah, it was like meters per second. I've never seen it, but we were top, and Everton were second, madly. But Arsenal and City were bottom because they don't. The way they play.
Arsenal do a lot of overplaying, basically, don't they? Like they're all, there's loads of players who are good on the ball and all the rest of it. But as this game showed perfectly, where's the end product?
Well, even Shearer, the bits he does talk sense around, kept commenting on Havertz especially, but other players taking too many touches.
And who knew that? That's such a bizarre signing and has proven to be exactly that.
This is the other thing, isn't it? It's like, sorry, I don't... When they're moaning about stuff like this, you're like, oh, so Kai Havertz isn't the most clinical forward in front of goal. Exactly that. You're like, yeah, well, look at our lads. We've got some who are like that and some who aren't. That's life. You need to get more of the lads who are dead clinical. This is not rocket science.
Were you surprised by, that both sides, both clubs went so strong? I mean, with Liverpool, there's probably an element of there was no one else available almost. But even when I looked at the bench, and okay, there were some youngsters on the bench, some who came on, some who put, boss tackles in and did the James Milner stuff to slow the game down and took boss yellows and things like that.
I had to give him man of the match for that, by the way. I was made up. Someone mentioned it on Twitter today, didn't he? Like,
brilliant.
Just unbelievable.
I thought the likes of those players might have started, and you sort of did it the other way around rather than them coming on. I thought they might start, but because there's obviously, we just done a little bit of this on the Main Lake Challenge show, talking about where is the FA Cup in levels of importance, not just for Liverpool, countrywide almost. And we have this debate, don't we, every single season. But it seemed to me that both managers went, nah, I want this. And you looked at Klopp and how he celebrated the goals and all the rest of it. There's no question he 100% wanted to win that, and they went for it and they won it.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised by the team, because I did the same thing before and when I realised he was out. But it reminded me just how good our squad is, that we can still put out a side like that. And it was Klopp afterwards, didn't he? Listed all the players who were missing.
Got to me to come on to that, yeah.
It was dead funny about that. Did you get onto it when he listed it? And I watched it again this morning to see if I'd misheard. Do you know the one player he missed off his list? And he actually got to the end and went,
Salah.
Yeah, he got to the end and went, sorry if I've missed anyone. You missed the best one, mate. Yeah. Think of that list he did, and he'd forgotten his fucking number one striker. But when I saw who was out and who we had available, I was like, no, that'll still be a good team. Obviously, it made a difference that Van Dijk wasn't there in the end as well. But I thought he'd do that. The comments about, which I did think it made, I think we mentioned this on the main show that's coming out on Wednesday, the comments he made about not wanting the replay, and obviously Arteta didn't want that boded well for, if I'm a TV producer and we've got that game, I'm made up when I'm hearing those two managers saying, like, we don't want this to go to a replay.
Yeah, because they're
both just going to go all, guns blazing to get a result, knowing that if they lose, that's better than a draw. Well, I was actually surprised when he made the changes he did, Joe, to bring the young lads on to take off Elliott and Jones. So
that's for Fulham, though, isn't it? That's with that in mind. I mean, I just thought with, it was in all the papers the day before about sort of Klopp talking about the scheduling and the people who do the scheduling, and about too much pressure on footballers and people who don't really understand football making decisions about more games and all that. And I haven't seen those comments. I thought that looks to me like the precursor to, a weakened side, if you like. And I kind of thought maybe they're just going to sort of like cop for it and say, we can't do this again. We can't go strong in every competition and end up knackered and all that kind of stuff. But here we are, we're in January and the Jarg Quadruple is on, and I'm right behind it. I'm enjoying it. It's just a great way to win the game, and I wanted nothing more the way it went in the end. Do you know what I mean? It was boss.
Well, I was thinking that because we've talked about this in the past couple of weeks, and going into the game, I was a bit like, not that arsed. If we get knocked out, it wouldn't be that bad a thing. But once the game started and we'd ridden it a bit, it was funny that feeling is now I want to beat the team.
100%.
Because when you're playing one of your biggest rivals, and especially with all the stuff going on and the comments you get afterwards and the comments we've had before from Arteta on a couple of things. I like Arteta in many ways, but as all of them, they all come across as, they can't help it, can they? They all come across as bell ends at some point.
Some people don't know what Jarg means. So it means a bit of a black version. So if Liverpool win the quadruple this season, it will include the Europa League, and the legit quadruple includes the Champions League, doesn't it? It's like when we won the Mickey Mouse treble. We all had loads of fun. It was absolutely boss. It was trophies in the cabinet. It was numbers on the list outside the ground, all the rest of it. But fans elsewhere went, it's not the real treble, it's the Mickey Mouse treble. Sound we were asked, and
that's my favourite bit about that. Like, if we win the quadruple this year, Man United fans and City fans will go, it's not the real quadruple, and we'll be like, yeah, we won 4 trophies in 1 year, mate.
Not ours.
We're all right with that.
It's literally the point. Yeah, all comps now. Liverpool are 121, drawn 6, lost 3, 2 defeats in the Europa League, and didn't really matter because we got through anyway, top of the group, etc. And the other one, well, it should never have happened, should it? It's a fucking joke. It's a travesty. It's an unbelievable injustice. Spares my ass. No, you let it go. Any fear, though, as we go deep into all of these competitions? Obviously, we've got the two-legged semi-final with Fulham up next, or the first leg of. We're top of the league. Our odds have shortened again now for the title. Are you worried about sort of burnout, about too much pressure on this side? Or are you just looking at it saying, like, wow, that they just keep winning, keep finding a way? People coming off the bench and doing what they're doing. Lee Clark's lad, has been talked up for a while. Come on, did great. You wouldn't expect to be relying on those lads in any way, but the fact that they can even come on as a sub in a game like that and do something, a game bodes well, and again sort of says to you that, whatever was previously wrong in the club when we lost 14 games and maybe we're starting to think, was the Klopp magic died? The Klopp magic is back, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the mentality, the mood, whatever you want to call it, all looks absolutely spot on.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because it goes back to stuff we've talked about in the past about, the thing about when he left Dortmund and the CEO said afterwards, like, we realised, and Klopp was with me on this conversation, we either need to get rid of Klopp or we need to change the entire squad. And we both said, well, it's easier to change Klopp. And a year later, he said, we made the wrong decision. We should have just changed the entire squad. And we were saying that going into this year, like we'd reached that point where it needed a complete refresh. Yeah. We needed a lot of new blood. And we got that. And it's interesting the way in which we got it, actually, because Quansar's come in like a new signing with the old cliche. And he's added to that whole thing and out the blue, like, and I've mentioned this before because we talked about this at length at the beginning of the season. That's been a surprise to them as well. Klopp has referenced that. So it's funny going back to what you said before about the surprise with the selection for the Arsenal game. I think if it hadn't been Arsenal away, because it was funny, Klopp mentioned a couple of times that was the most difficult tie we could have had. And at neither point did he say, apart from Man City away. So there's something about Arsenal that he thinks is impressive. And I wonder whether he didn't want to throw in the likes of Bradley and Clark from the start because he didn't want them to have an experience of being battered against a really, really good side, and it just doesn't help their development. Whereas on the burnout point, I think I'm going a long way around. Do I fear burnout? I don't. I think this year, because I think they'll have learned from the last time. And I always remember, and I didn't realise it at the time, but I've seen people talk about it since. The year Man United won the treble, Ferguson rested players in the FA Cup semi-final. And I've seen Neville talk about it and say, even the players were like, you're fucking kidding me. But they said he was rolling the dice on that game because he was trying to win the treble. Mm-hmm. And he just had to take a calculated risk. And I think what we might see a bit more of now is, because it's the draw for the FA Cup tonight as we do this.
Yeah.
So Monday night.
10-8.
I think if we get a couple of decent draws, we might see more of the likes of Conor Bradley and Clark, because I think even in just that cameo, they've shown he obviously likes them. There's a couple of other young lads he likes in there. And I think if we're still missing this many senior players, he might use more of them to avoid the burnout. Plus, we've got all these lads to come back.
Yeah.
And when they come back, you've got to... This is the thing about... I've often thought this. And look, City will be thinking the same thing in the league. Well, generally. They are where they are in all their competitions. And Kevin De Bruyne has been out. He's just coming back. So he only plays half a season. There's a big thing in that. Like, if you miss players in the first part of the season, they're resting at the same time as being injured. So, fingers crossed, touching wood, the likes of Andy Robertson could come back and have a real big impact on the second half.
You can't just say things, lads, in the comments that just aren't true. We haven't beat Arsenal at their stadium for 10 years. That's why he said that. We've won 4 of our last 5 games against Arsenal at the Emirates, mate, with an aggregate score of 11-3. So that's just simply not true, mate. But like, yes, I take the point that it's, a difficult tie, etc. I mean, to bring it back to that and bring it back to sort of, you mentioned before, like the almost strange narratives around it, which we always get. I just find it so tiring. I just think, like, if you've got any level of intelligence, stuff that managers come out and say, or even fans come out and say about games and why and what and where, it's just so obviously bollocks. Do you know what I mean? Like, in this game, in the first half, Liverpool have 2 shots and none of them are on target. Arsenal have 13 and 5 of them are on target. So I'm going to say, in the first half, Arsenal looked more likely to score.
Yeah.
In the second half, however, Liverpool had slightly less possession of the ball, but they had 10 shots. 3 of them were on target. Arsenal had 5 shots and none of them were on target. So it looks to me there then that Liverpool look more like scoring in the second half. Yeah. So where's this big thing then of Arsenal defo deserve to win, and it's, like it's the worst Liverpool, like. And then, you had Shearer. People wanted us to mention Shearer. Don't worry, it was on there anyway. Talking absolute shite again. Like, he said at half-time that Arsenal should have been 4 or 5 up.
He said that after about 15 minutes.
And it's like, based on what? So, okay, they've got the ball. They're attacking more. They're in our box more. But the quality of chance created, as measured by, these nerds that have dreamt up XG, it's 1.6 across the course of the whole game.
Yeah.
So where'd you get 4 or 5 from?
But he was doing this weird thing that I think people do. Do you know that there was like a 10-15 second spell where they had a shot, we blocked one. They had a shot, we blocked one. Oh, they had a shot, we blocked one. They had a shot, hit the bar. We had a shot, they blocked one.
Kanate's blocking everything. Kanate was brilliant, by the way.
Yeah. It's like Shearer's brain's gone. That should be 3 goals.
Yeah, it's one incident.
And you go, sorry, Alan, just sorry to point this out to you, but I'll do it very slowly, see if you can follow. If any of those go in, you don't get the others. Do you know what I mean? Like, let's say the first shot that Kanate blocked went in. The game stops. You don't get to have the other 2 shots.
Yeah.
You can't score all 3. And it's like his brain couldn't process that. You're like, mate, it's wild, this. Calm down. There's no world in which Arsenal could or should have been 4 or 5-0 up in the first half.
No.
It just wasn't possible.
And equally, it's absolutely fine for us to say we've gone away to the Emirates for a game they definitely wanted to win in front of their home crowd. This is a side that's challenging for the league last season, has supposedly improved upon that side this season, spent an absolute fortune on Declan Rice, etc., etc., etc. According to Arteta, like, all of a sudden now, like, they were absolutely brilliant at Anfield and deserved to win that one, even though we hit the bar and we should have had a penalty. But yeah, as people are pointing out in the comments, Arsenal's XG against Liverpool was 1.61. Ours was 0.67. And that's the whole game. But no one's saying Liverpool should have won 4-5-0. We're saying it's fucking boss that in that circumstance, in that type of game, with the way it went, brilliant.
Mate, I've got no problem if in that sentence Shearer goes, Arsenal should be ahead by now.
Yeah. Like, it's the 4 or 5 bit,
they should have been, but not 4 or 5, mate. Let's not get carried away.
And
also,
let's acknowledge the fact, you said it yourself there, that Kanate's making blocks, that Trent's making blocks, that, that actually, we keep having this narrative of, like, everyone's shit in our defence. They're not. Like, Kanate, when he's playing like that, you wouldn't swap him for anyone.
Yeah.
Absolutely superb. And even the Trent thing, it's like, okay, what are all the positives that you get out of Trent? We talked about this loads of times, haven't we? Look at his control. Look at his first touch. Look at the passes he can play. Look at the goals that he's, like, nearly scoring, and you're thinking some worldies are going in from Trent sometime soon. You know what I mean? Yeah. He nearly does a Van Basten, last week. This week he's at the bar again, and he's chuckling about it. Klopp's chuckling about it because it's like, that would have been a belter, that. Yeah. And he's obviously, like, that's what the manager wants to see him doing as well. And it's like, but we're still having this thing about, it's too easy to get past them and blah, blah, blah. But, well, it's a team, though. You know what I mean? It's not just about Trent. Just move away from the constant Trent narrative. It's so fucking boring.
Yeah, but
if he's in any other team, we're talking him up, aren't we?
Well, if we're doing that to Trent, I've watched Reece James, right? Who I would say Reece James and Kyle Walker. People would say, well, they're the best 2 right backs in England, blah, blah. If you treated them the exact same way you treat Trent for commentating on their defending, you'd be doing the same thing. You'd be going, he's gone past Reece James again there. He's gone past him again there. You're like, yeah, he's a fucking defender. Sometimes people go past defenders, especially when they're attack-minded defenders. That happens.
I seen a boss thing. I wish I'd screenshotted it now because I haven't got it on my agenda. But someone had done this like long list of like Trent v everyone essentially so far this season, and apart from Gordon at Newcastle, no one's really done anything like as a director. Because we talked about that weird, the weird way it was analysed against City, and it was like it went past them 10 times or whatever, and it was like, yeah, but then what did
he do? Yeah.
Well, so he's just down in the corner. There's no roof for a cross. He couldn't find the man, and he just went all the way back again and passed back into midfield. Oh, Sam, well, that hurt Liverpool then, didn't it?
And was Trent a part of that happening, by the way? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Was Trent part of the recovery? This is something they never talk about. I was watching Trent a couple of times last night, and it was interesting because, again, Joe, if you could freeze frame it and stop them all and go, why are you doing this? There were a few times when he clearly wasn't breaking his neck to get back because he's predicting that we're going to win the ball and break. So he's trusting the lads who are already in defence to win the ball and break. Guess what? That's not him making that decision by himself. That's how we play football. That's part of our game. We gamble. We take calculated risks on the basis that we don't all need to get back every time we lose the ball. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. 100%.
It's not 1980s 4-4-2 football. It's not playing in school. They're taking calculated risks, and sometimes calculated risks go wrong. But I mean, generally speaking, this thing, and it is worth reiterating this so people don't think we're being completely like one-sided or biased. Arsenal were on top as the home team in the first half when we had new players in a new structure. They were on top, and
they should have took advantage.
They should have taken advantage,
but they didn't.
But they didn't.
And anyone who compares Saka to Salah and makes out that he's anywhere near his level, have a fucking word with yourself. Absolutely not. Yeah. Few comments in. I'll read a few out that we got over on Twitter. X my ass. Marshy said the bravery and trust of Klopp to throw in Conor Bradley and Bobby Clark at that moment of the game was superb. Add Kwanzaa to that bracket, and oh my God, we took it to the Gunners. Proud of them boys. They took their chance. They did indeed. Justin Ling says, love seeing all the YouTube virgins losing their shit in the post-match compilation videos. Inner chimps on full display. He also says, live from the Albert Dock, the most electrifying middle-aged post-match reaction in sports entertainment. Feeling great after that one, lads. If the boys can't get through the next few weeks with a good run of games, we could be if the boys can get through the next few weeks with a good run of games, we could be in for a brilliant few months. Absolutely right, apart from we're not at the Albert Dock anymore. Ian says Alan Shearer is on drugs. I can't confirm nor deny that. I'm merely reading out what Ian says. But he's
do the Trump thing that Trump used to do. Some people are saying that Alan Shearer is on drugs.
But he also says that Newcastle pace thing has really cut him deep. Other people have been saying that to me, like he didn't used to be all right. And how come he started being a bit of a bell about Liverpool? I think it's because in his mind, maybe even unknown to him, he thinks like they're on our level now. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. He's like, well, we're a Champions League club now, even though they're out. But you know what I mean? He's like maybe looking at us in that way because he was on that commentary, wasn't he, for Barcelona, for the radio. I think it was with Ian Dennis. And, the going on, or it might have been John Murray, can't remember. One of the two. But going on about how mad Tuchel Anfield was, how mad the atmosphere was, all that kind of stuff, and we were all loving them then. Someone's put there, like, don't get wound up by commentators. Where's the fun in that?
Yeah.
If you don't have a conversation about these things and you don't get a little bit wound up, then it's their boring. Yeah, it's part of the game.
And look, I actually like Shearer in co-commentary. Like you mentioned the Barcelona game, he was great on that. And I defended Neville a little bit last week. He says plenty of positive stuff about Liverpool still. That was just... I have to say this as well. I like getting stuck in like on these shows because it's fun, as you say. And as someone who we're literally doing a live show now. When we watch back our own live talking, there are times when we go, we're just talking shite there, lad, weren't you? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm sure if I sat down Alan Shearer and said to him, 4 or 5, he might go, yeah, probably should have been one.
Of course, like you put a mic in front of someone and like say, go ahead, talk for an hour.
Yeah.
Likelihood is you're not going to get Everton even close to the right side. You're going to make loads of mistakes, blah, 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 blah.
Talk bullshit.
And it is what it is.
Just to prove my point.
I can't give everyone a shout out this time because I feel like I'm behind on my admin. But yeah, thanks to everyone who's throwing in like the super chats, whatever they're called. One day I'll know what they're called. To go back to the actual game, obviously Odegaard hits the bar, but so does Trent. Nelson and Havertz and Saka all miss, decent enough opportunities, but not ones that the nerds would like to call, nailed on goals or whatever.
And let's throw this in, whether you've put this in already. No one's even to mention that I think the best chance of the entire first half, which wasn't a chance, was Nunes square to Diaz.
Oh yeah, I thought you meant Zeda.
Oh no, the one where like they're literally were 2-on-1.
Oh yeah,
and if Nunes just puts it in front of Diaz, he's 1-on-1 with Ramsdale. No one mentions that.
Well, that doesn't show up.
But it doesn't show as an XG,
doesn't show up as a thing. Yeah, we've done Shearer talking shite. We've done Canate being outstanding. I'd like to give a shout out to Gomez because I said on this show way back that I like Gomez and I think he's a great player and I think he's underrated at Liverpool. Yeah. And I was actually arguing for him to be in at left back when Tsimikas was fit, and obviously got a lot of people coming back saying, well, he's got to cut in the other side and all that kind of stuff. I think he's been brilliant. He's come in out of the cold essentially, and like so composed on the ball, and like just sort of a reminder of what a player we got there. And he's not even playing in his de facto position really, because it's sort of getting lost as well that. That partnership he used to have with Virgil and people talking him up for England and all that kind of stuff, and them having like, that little bromance that they seem to have going on and all that kind of stuff. So I'm made up that he's still around. I'm made up that we're seeing him again for Liverpool, and I just wanted to give him a little shout out to say I think he's been superb in the recent run. Kwanzaa we've mentioned as well, 20 years old. I mean, as he, you were very like on earlier versions of this show, you were very like, what are we doing? How can we be going into the season? We haven't bought a centre half. I mean, we can't know he was going to be that good.
Well, no one did. I think that's the point, isn't
including, it? I think even Klopp, if you sat him down, would say we knew he had talent.
Yeah, well, he's actually to be
this good at 20 years old when you're thrown in. Fair fucking play.
Klopp's actually said in a press conference, I've heard him say, his rate of development has surprised us. So they knew he was good. They knew he had potential. But this was my criticism at the start of the season was, you roll in the dice and you don't need to roll the dice. Go and get a better player. Like, don't rely on him.
There's an argument to still be doing that in this window, by the way.
Yeah. But it goes back to something I said a couple of weeks ago. I'd buy a different player in a different position now because you rolled the dice and it worked out. Like, he's fucking great. Isn't he? But
equally, when we thought he was crocked there yesterday, you're thinking, now what?
Klopp even said that. Did you see his post-match press conference?
No, I didn't see that.
Because he went, Canate went down twice and Quansah went down, and each time you're going, shit.
Yeah.
And look,
not Nat Phillips.
But I feel sorry for Nat Phillips. We've recalled him again, and now we're doing that thing, and we're like, you might have to stay, Nat, because we're rolling the dice on our centre backs again. And Nat Phillips might be like, my career's getting fucked here, lads. Can I just
go? To be fair, he's gone up there, and
it's not really happened. Yeah. But look, on the Gomez point, Danny Murphy said on the telly before, and not that we're asked about England, but lots of the players are. I can't believe he wouldn't be in the England squad if he keeps playing the way he is, because he's part of what I was talking about the other week about you need players in your squad who can play multiple positions, and he is at his best. He is a top level defender in whichever position he plays across the back line, which is unbelievably valuable as we're seeing. And I think the Quansah thing, I would buy it. I would buy if it was me and this player is out there, I would buy another multifunctional player if you can get one, because Gomez is if your Quansah gets injured, you can play Gomez centre back, but you need to have that lad who can step in at full back then.
Yeah.
But it all depends. Look,
but
this
we're
is the
hoping
thing.
to have Robertson by the end of the month. And
this is the thing about football it's an ever moving puzzle, isn't it, that you're trying to solve, and that's your problem. And Klopp referenced that. You've got that whole something I quite like about where we are now as a club. Klopp as well, is all these other clubs seem to be moaning about injuries. We played United, they moan about their list of injuries. We play Arsenal, they moan about their injuries. Look at our list of injuries. or players not available.
Well, that was going to be my next point. So, all of that yesterday, without Van Dijk, without Thiago, without Szoboszlai, without Bajcetic, without Matip, without Robertson, without Tsimikas, without Endo, without Ben Doak, and of course, without Mo Salah. I like the Klopp quote. Did you see that about Van Dijk? It's difficult for Virgil to look shit, but he did, so we sent him home.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah. So that was that. But, he's going to come back in as well, you would imagine, soon. A shout for Jota as well, and the weekly shout out for Andrew Beasley, base tune to red, get him followed. Jota has played approximately 79 minutes, including stoppage time, says Andrew, since returning from injury, and he's provided a goal and 2 assists. Michael Reed as well, which is one that Andrew had retweeted. I saw that on his timeline, said best minutes per non-pen goal or assist for Premier League clubs in all comps this season. 10 plus goals plus assists. Jota is the best at that, basically. And look, you don't even need to see those stats, I don't think, or read those stats or hear about those stats to know that he just makes an impact. He's like a no shit player, isn't he? Do you know what I mean? He seems to come on and go, no, fuck all this. I'm just going to run at them and make things happen. I'm going to play this ball too. I'm going to have a shot. I'm going to score a goal. And he seems to do that every time. There's nothing in his mentality about context. It's just like, oh, you're putting me on army? Yeah. Right, watch me go.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't care what stadium I'm playing at. I don't care what the opposition is. I don't care what the balance or the jeopardy is in a game. Just put me in, get me involved, and I will fucking make things happen. Yeah. And that's some asset to have, isn't it?
Yeah, he's brilliant, isn't he? And 100% what you've just said, like his impact, you almost guarantee an impact with him, don't you? Like his mentality.
Do you reckon it's because he's like boss at FIFA? So he's playing that and he's like, I'm bringing me on here. Yeah. You know what I mean? And when you're playing FIFA, you're not worried. It's just a game, isn't it? So you're not asked about who you're playing or anything like that. You just play FIFA. I'm genuinely wondered if that works into his mindset a bit. It's just a game of footy and I'm good at that. Come on. Yeah. Let's go.
Yeah. I do think there's certain nationalities where you can see the certain mentality. And there is a Portuguese. There's always been that Portuguese edginess about him.
Oh, he's got needle.
Like the needle in him.
Yeah.
And I just think he's an absolute. I think it's always interesting this, and you don't often see this while players are still playing. You do sometimes in little interviews and stuff. But when you get to ask players who they like and don't like playing against, I reckon defenders will be like, I hate playing against him. He's an absolute pain in the arse. He's a nightmare. You never know which way. You can go either way. He's boss in the air. That header against the bar. It's like, he's boss in the air. He's 2-footed. He's quicker than he looks. He's strong. He's needly.
Yeah.
Can pass. Great player.
Yeah, superb. I mean, there's a thing now as well about, is it time then that we start? We talked about Liverpool as like a transitional side, and we talked about how there was all the change in the summer, some of it expected, some of it unexpected, players fucking off to Saudi that we didn't expect to go. Some of those players hilariously now wanting to come back because guess what? It's shit. Who knew?
Don't start me.
but people are saying now, with this run we're on, with the way we just keep winning, the way we keep finding a way, is it time to be saying this group, this version, this 2.0 Liverpool, whatever you want to call them, this Liverpool are mentality monsters? Because again, to farm the Beasley timeline, he says Liverpool have scored as many goals from the 75th minute onward as they've conceded in total this season, 28. And obviously it's 2 late goals that do for Arsenal here. We're good at that. We keep finding a way. We're good at the comebacks from behind as well. So the sort of like, what I love about this is, I always think about this, not only am I enjoying this about Liverpool, and it's great being a fan and it's great winning in this way, I always think, how boss must that be to be in the dressing room afterwards? How boss must it be to be on the coach home afterwards as a player? But also, your next opponent, Fulham, for example, they must be sitting there rolling the fucking eyes. Bearing in mind how they lost at Anfield in the league. They must be going, oh, do you know what I mean? I'm going to come on to Arteta and about how he tried to spin the game a bit. Did you get onto the line about the best team for momentum in Europe right now?
Yeah.
that said to me about we're in a Z.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to be in every opponent's Z because, they all must watch Match of the Day. They all get fed video clips and information and all the rest of it. Liverpool keep coming back. Liverpool keep going. The subs keep having an impact. They keep scoring late goals. You can't give up against these bastards.
Well, it was funny that they literally, on the BBC, they put up the stat of most goals scored after the 75th minute in the league this year. And ours was just miles ahead of everyone else. They put that up at 0-0. And guess what? A few minutes later, we go and score. And we've seen this so many times in the history of football, things that become self-fulfilling prophecies. Because if you're an Arsenal player or you're an Arsenal fan, going back to what I said before, you're on that pitch, you're in that ground, you're watching on telly. The longer that game goes on and you haven't scored, the more you go in, these fuckers are going to score.
Because you and me have been that fan at Anfield, haven't we?
Of course we have.
We've watched games where Liverpool have dominated and you're like, we haven't took our chances here.
Well, and especially,
there's going to be a late goal. Fucking Birmingham or something, they're going to nick a goal.
Look, it's bad enough in just normal games, but when you were watching Man United, when they were this team, when they were in everyone's heads, you would always know they would score a late goal. Yeah. When that's in everybody's heads, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Go. John O'Shea, 94th minute or whatever
and then it would happen, self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
Happened to Man City. When Man City became the dominant force they did, they're rolling up to games and the other team's half beat already because it becomes, and especially when you're playing against a side like Liverpool, it becomes so difficult to beat us because how do you beat us? Do you score early? Well, they can come back from that. Do you keep it tight and leave it till late? Well, they'll score later than everybody else.
Yeah, they like that.
What do you do then? Just sit off? Do you let them dominate? It's so difficult to play us and to try and beat us. And this is without, we've still got the debates around Núñez not being as clinical as he could be. Another game without him scoring a goal. Yeah. Diaz, last couple of games, we've just seen him click back into gear. Like all of a sudden, we're like, oh, he looks back. We were worried about him. Looks back to his best. Jota's come back from injury. All it takes is Núñez to click back into gear.
And he spares off his half fella there, by the way. Isn't every fucking away? I can't get a ticket for
time of his life.
I can't get a ticket anymore for any of the ways. And there's him giving it. I mean, I don't begrudge him or really messing, obviously, but and he spares. We, on this show, as you may know, if you've been watching on the regular, you will know that we like to do quite serious analysis, but equally, sometimes we'll just be bad ends. I would suggest this falls into the latter category, but I wanted to do a bit on Ben White being a helmet. So first of all, fucking suntan in January, that isn't it? Well, I think he's had one of them spray tans.
He's been playing all the way through, hasn't he? So there's no way he's been away somewhere.
As one of my mates said, and then he's just a bit of a strange fella, isn't he? And there's this big mystery about sort of what's happened with England and why is he getting overlooked and is there something to it? I don't know. I've got no.
Is there? I was thinking that the other day. Is there some conspiracy theory about it?
Well, I just on solely the basis that he's playing for a team that are supposedly challenging for the title, not getting a sniff, then I think
England struggle for centre backs, which he effectively is.
People are joining that saying, well, something gone on because he left early, didn't he, and for family reasons that time and all that.
Oh, okay.
And so I don't know. I'm not trying to make a conspiracy around it. Really, I'm just saying, that's what people are saying. But there was something about, and maybe I'm reading too much into it, but when Curtis absolutely ripped him with that bit of skill, and he took him out, and I wasn't that a yellow card for him, by the way. The way Curtis did that, though, I thought, does he dislike him? You know what I mean? Is he like, I'm going to fucking rip you a new one? And he absolutely rinses him. It's boss, And we know Curtis has got those type of things in his locker, but I feel as though he keeps that locker shut quite a lot and tries to be like, I'm a team player. I'm a system player. But it just made me think, did he want to embarrass him? Does he think he's a bell? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What did you make of it all? Or what you make of him?
I think it's dead funny that I reckon you could, again, if you could freeze frame time, there was a moment in the first half at the beginning of the game where the camera went on him, and I reckon in that moment, millions of people around the country went, "What's going on with this tan?"
Yeah.
Like everyone
and
at the same time. Do you know what I mean?
Everything. Yeah.
How is he
looks like he should be on Towie.
How is he so tanned? Yeah. But isn't it funny that everyone picked up on that?
Yeah.
How is he so tanned in January? Just thought I mean, it is funny that I did think that the other week. Why doesn't he get a sniff with the England squad? That thing with Curtis Jones, by the way, was unbelievable. Another one of those where you're like, if he's Spanish or if we'd bought him from another country and he did that, everyone would be raving off it. That was unreal skill.
It's quality, wasn't it?
Yeah, he's boss. I honestly can't for the life of me. One of my cousins, every time I see him, goes, can't stand Curtis Jones. And I just go to him now. I can't understand that.
Yeah, based on what?
I think he's a phenomenal footballer, and he's 22. He's 22. Everyone raves off Harvey Elliott, rightly so, and say he's 20. Curtis Jones is only 22 years old, and he's already a very influential footballer in our team.
And look, we're leaning on all of these players, aren't we? Like for this, like we can talk all day about the team selection, the subs that came on, and all the rest of it. Like there is a bit of a point to say that like he didn't have much choice in this matter because of all those players we mentioned earlier who were out. But like Elliott's like not got much plaudits for yesterday. But I thought he played a couple of great passes from deep that didn't actually result in anything, but should have done. But then that gets lost then, doesn't it? When you considering all the things that go on in the 90+ minutes, you don't really think about a couple of great passes that Elliott played in that game.
Yeah, but I also think Klopp got it a bit wrong with the starting team, because I've thought this before when we first bought Elliott. Elliott doesn't have the pace at lower levels of footy, and I think you see this a lot when you buy a player from another country or a player comes up from a lower division or something like that. You can see how where they played or where they were before, they had all the attributes you need to be great in that position. So at lower division, Elliott, his skill level is enough that he can play in the front line.
Well, he was one of the best players in the Championship when he was at Blackburn.
Yeah, but my point is, I don't think he's quick enough to play that position for.
I think he's quicker
League.
than people give it. So there's this. I think that's a bit of a narrative thing. This about because there's a thing that he can't run because of his like demeanour. I think. But whereas it's proven, someone put stats up last week, he's running as much as anyone.
No, I don't think there's a running issue. I just think there's an explosiveness issue. So I think he's much better playing that advanced right side of midfield role where he can get involved in the game more and he doesn't need that explosiveness. He's mobile and can get around the pitch. But in that forward position, you could see the difference it made when Diaz moved there, because the players, the pace you need in that position to worry defenders is important at this level of the game. And I think
it's not happening with the
really
coats staying on. People going on about why we've got coats on. It's cold.
It's cold. That's a mad question to ask, isn't it? Why else would we have coats on?
I know, yeah.
But yeah, I feel like when we change the system, and that gets more out of him in that position.
Yeah. On Ben White as well, by the way. I'm just always suspicious of these footy players who say they don't like footy. Yeah. I mean, like,
we've talked about that in the past,
talked about it before, yeah, and there are various players that have come out and said it, and he's one of them. He said, I didn't ever watch football when I was younger. I still don't now. I just loved the game. I was always playing it, never watching. So I don't know too much about the old generations. I know Vieira was a very good player, but I don't know the details.
That's a mad thing to say, isn't it?
What are you doing?
I don't know the details.
Like, I mean, I get it if you say you were playing all the time, but like, did you never put the tally on? No, did you never read the paper? Yeah. You know what I mean? Or whatever. Go on the internet, read the paper there. I don't
think we actually got into this point when we talked about it a few months ago, but I think it's just a bit mad in any job. Like, imagine if you were a journalist or an author and you went, I don't read anyone else's work. Like, but it helps your job.
Yeah.
Like, to be a good footballer, it helps you to watch other footballers. So aren't you, as part of your job, don't you need to watch footy?
I know, apparently not. Just rocks up, being orange and playing football.
Well, so a lot of work goes into that tan, obviously.
Arsenal, I think we should just have a little buzz off Arsenal moment, really. They've given it the big one about being title contenders. They've absolutely shit the bed. They're now out the FA Cup as well. There's a bit of pressure building on Arteta, and rightly so, because one win in the last 7 matches in all comps as it stands. They've lost the last 3, and it's their fewest wins over a 7-game period under Arteta. They've scored 1 goal now from an XG of 6.47 over the last 3 games, and Arteta, when asked about it, didn't really sound like he was that confident they were going to buy someone. Obviously beaten by us, West Ham and Fulham. And he did. I thought he's got a bit in a bit of politician mode, as managers tend to do in this situation. So he started talking about it, possibly being a psychological issue, but then, started coming out with this best team in Europe thing, but qualified it by saying best team in Europe in terms of momentum. So if you assessed every team in Europe in terms of momentum, have you, Mikel? So yeah, he was scrambling around a little bit there, I thought. And I don't know. I don't think, I could be wrong, but it doesn't really look to me like they're going to suddenly get this back. Do you know what I mean? Like, they could go and batter someone. Like, the play, some of their build-up play, as we said earlier, is nice, and they've got some good footballers and all the rest of it. But I don't know. There's no fear factor about them for me. I mean, like, we've got to go back to the Emirates next month, and I'd fancy Liverpool, especially if we get some of these
players,
some of the players back. Yeah,
yeah. They're an interesting one. We mentioned after we drew against them a couple of weeks ago, the stats for their front three are way down. And that's a worry. If I'm an Arsenal fan or Arteta, that's a worrying thing, because they should be getting better. I referenced that in the sense that our front five is still just developing together, and we should be better next year than we are now. But they've gone in the opposite direction, and it's partly because of the tinkering he's done. I've seen some Arsenal fans question it, and they questioned it at the start of the season. He changed their style slightly. They tried to go more solid. And don't get me wrong, the problem they're having in front of goal can change quickly once you get a bit of, you score a goal, you get more confidence. The concern for them is it's not just one player. And I think that's why I understand why, the fans and media want them to just buy a striker for 100 million, like that's going to solve everything. But buying one striker for 100 million doesn't all of a sudden make Martinelli, Jesus, Havertz and Saka more clinical. And you can't just rely on one lad. So there's a deeper problem, and that's the issue for them. But great, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, well, I mean, when I was saying about the sort of the politician stuff, he says, I haven't seen a team in the past 6 months that has generated what we have done against Liverpool in the last 2 games. We haven't capitalised, not just today, but in the last few games. Merit-wise, there is no question that we deserve to win the games, but the results are very different. I mean, the 40 isn't judged on merit-wise for one, but also we did the stats earlier in the show. It's just bollocks, isn't it? I mean, the game at Anfield I thought was a very good game, and a great watch, if you like. But the first pint out of the Kop into the pub, the first thing we talked about was how the fuck wasn't that a penalty, and how didn't Trent score? Yeah. So it's I don't. In the modern day, I don't see why managers still default to this position, because it's very easy for them to look fucking daft with the wealth of information that we've got at our fingertips in terms of, like, you can watch the game back, you can watch the highlights back, you've got 1,000,001 stats that we didn't used to have in the olden days. So, if you're just relying on, in the olden days, if you were just relying on match reports or whatever, or what a manager said, you might believe that shit. But now, I just think you look a bit daft when you try and spin stuff. Like, why did you deserve to win at Anfield?
Yeah,
like you were all high-fiving each other that you got a fucking draw.
Yeah, it's the bit I don't get, like, because they come across much better. And whenever anyone is more reasonable, everyone's like, oh, that's refreshing, isn't it? And they all have, Klopp can be just as bad. Postecoglou, started out as this, we all love him, very reasonable guy. It hasn't taken him very long to start getting extreme as well. I think the pressure at which they're operating under, they're likely to say mad stuff every now and then. But to say that there is no question that they deserve to win the games is just, you're like, but there is, mate.
There's loads of questions.
There's loads of questions. Like, not least the stats and what we saw with our own eyes. Like, I don't really get it. Like, I don't get me wrong, there are games in which a team comes, we've been that team where the other team has absolutely annihilated you over 90 minutes. And fucking hell, we talked on our Patreon show about Liverpool versus Arsenal in the FA Cup final, the Michael Owen one, 2001. Yeah, no question they should have won that game. Yeah. They battered us. We won. We robbed that one. We put our hands up to that. We robbed it and we won. It's a great feeling. If you don't have a shot, if you don't have a shot on target in the second half of an FA Cup game
at your home ground, that's an issue.
Having had so many in the first half, that's it. There is a cliche for this, Mikel. It's called a game of two halves.
Yeah.
Like that, and that's what's happened. You've had this great dominant performance in the first half. You didn't take advantage of it. We've come back because, again, all the cliches come out, don't they? Liverpool are not going to play as badly in the second half, and you're probably not going to play as well. Klopp even referenced that after the game. When a team's played that well in the first half, it's unlikely they'll sustain it.
Well, and it actually boosts the other team, doesn't it? Well, like, if you come out of it, it's almost like, like if it was a boxing match, you'd had all these punches thrown at you and you're still on your feet. And then you get like a bit of a second wind and think, well, hang on.
I've got a chance here.
Yeah.
Well, and as well, Klopp referenced, which is part of the game, and Arteta knows this, in the modern game, they've caught us by surprise by the way they set up. Klopp said himself, we didn't prepare for the way they set up. So we get to come in at half time, reassess what they've done and change the way we're set up to counter it. That's part of the game. So, yeah, Joe, well done, Mikel. You got the first half right. Second half, not so good.
Loads of questions. Pillar LFC over on Twitter said, I think yesterday was a really important game. To win our first game without Salah, Endo and everyone else will be massive for the squad. Roll on Wednesday. And it did feel like that, didn't it? I thought that, because we've come out of that now with huge feel good. Do you know what I mean? And like that rolls now into Wednesday, a home game against Fulham, semi-final first leg of the League Cup. Liverpool odds on favourites to win that game as an individual game, and also to get through and get into the final. Fulham 6-1 to get something at Anfield on Wednesday night. And like I said before, it just feels like everyone will be buzzing now. And like whatever team, Klopp goes for on Wednesday, you'd expect them to all be fired and ready to go. I mean, you think about some of the players that, Gravenberch comes on, doesn't he? He could start on Wednesday. Jota could start on Wednesday. Do you know what I mean? So even though we've got all of those players out, there's still some that, didn't play the whole game, and it feels like he can freshen it up a little bit.
Yeah.
And we'll be all right.
Yeah, well, not only can he freshen up a little bit, but then we have, and I think as it passed me by that, with the whole focus on Salah and Endo going away, we've got this break now after this game.
Yeah.
And because we got the result and we didn't have the draw that would mess it up.
That's what happened with Shrewsbury that time, wasn't it? Remember when he was fuming that like the replay was basically when you're supposed to be having this break. So that's why they were so desperate, weren't they, for a result yesterday. So we've got that now.
Yeah.
So yeah,
which means we've got time to get people rested. We've got time to get people fit again. So he's only got to get through one more game with this level of injuries and with these. And as you say, we have got enough to freshen it up. And by the time we come back for the Bournemouth game, we should have a few players back, and that does change things. Yeah,
we've got obviously Fulham 10th of January, Wednesday, and then 11 days then until 21st of January when we go away to Bournemouth, and then you've got the second leg at Fulham, obviously, of the League Cup, and then following week we've got Chelsea at home, Chelsea 9-2 for that one.
But there's a nice gap even there, isn't there?
There's a nice gap there as well. I mean, I was looking at, as I always do, the title odds. Man City odds on Liverpool 9-4, Arsenal out to 6-1 now to win the league. Aston Villa 25s, Tottenham 33, Man United 500, Chelsea 1,000-1.
Wow. I think that's generous.
It's absolutely wild, that, isn't it, to see that. Like,
I should say this before someone else pulls up on it. Does an FA Cup game get inserted there? Because that's a weekend. There's no game.
I'm not sure when the next round is, mate. You just done one of them classics that you always do, where it's like
you something I don't know. That
and then I don't know either, so I'll try and look on the internet. But I mean, obviously the draws at 10-8 tonight, isn't it? We've obviously got through. So whenever the next round, fourth round is it? That will be inserted in there, obviously. But you've totally bamboozled me with that, mate. Thanks for that.
Well, anyway, we've got a nice little run of fixtures after that break as well, because Bournemouth away, whilst they've been going well, I think Bournemouth's the type of team we like to play, aren't they?
January the 27th.
Yeah,
apparently it's around that weekend, so because obviously.
Yeah, so that's right. I thought that'd be the case. So So we play Bournemouth away, then we play Fulham away in the second leg. But again, we could make that game easier, can't we, by putting in a really good performance this week? Who knows? Then we've got...
And also, you know, who knows, we could actually get a fucking easy time in the FA Cup instead of like always getting Premier League teams when watching City draw shite.
Yeah. So then, you know, if we can do that, you've got FA Cup and then Chelsea, and then you're away to Arsenal again the Sunday after. So it's another nice little run of games, and Salah could be back for that Arsenal game, couldn't he?
We've got about 3 minutes or so left there. There's plenty of chat there. We really quickly scraped over it, but I know people do want us to talk about it. We got some tweets about it as well. Henderson, it does look like, wants to come back after all of that. Yeah. 350 grand a week, tax free.
That, can't he? And he's now got a fucking tax complication on his hands because you don't get it tax free unless you stay out there.
Did you read the piece? There was a really interesting piece about sort of like the life they're all living over there. And do you know that him and Gerard aren't even living in Saudi?
They're not.
They're living in Bahrain.
You're messing.
Because apparently, like, it's a bit freer in terms of, you know, like the lifestyle you can lead and all that. They're in Bahrain, and then like they're basically commuting to Saudi.
There's the first thing I thought when I heard about this was, you've done that thing, Jordan, where you haven't looked into it enough before you've gone. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. You've just seen the money, like everyone said.
Yeah. So and you need to be a bit honest about that now. And the flip side of that is, if it was just for the money, which people were saying, he'd stay out there. So clearly, it isn't just for the money, is it?
Yeah.
But he's starting, and I can see why. I mean, look, I'll say as well, fair play to someone who, because it takes balls to say, I've made a mistake, I need to come back, especially with all the shit he took and the shit he's going to take coming back. It just flabbergasts me, to be honest. What a word. I mean, he's not the first, is he? There's rumours Firmino wants to leave already.
As well, yeah.
Like, no shit, lads. You don't like playing in front of 300 fellas when you're used to playing in the Champions League. Come on.
It's funny, isn't it? I mean, I wonder how this will all play out now, because obviously, you know, it is a long-term plan for the Saudis. Obviously, people are comparing it to, you know, what happened with China. They're saying that's not going to happen here. This is a long-term plan, blah, 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 blah. But it was interesting as well. I think it was a piece in the Times where they dug into sort of like the lifestyle. And, you know, less celebrated, less talked about is that footballers have got over, and women footballers as well. And like, there's not the big fanfare about them, but they're still going over and they're earning decent money, not the Henderson level. But it was explaining how they're living. And it sounded pretty weird, to be honest. It was like they're living on like compounds, almost like a holiday park with, like, you know, gym, pool, stuff like that. It's like sort of like going to centre parks and then playing footy for some shit team and being paid well for doing it. Yeah. And like, but at the top end as well, it was saying about like, they've basically got access to like private jets, almost like a taxi. So like the wives are fucking off to like Paris and Milan and whatever, just on a whim whenever they feel like. Obviously, like I've said,
to try and keep them sweet, basically.
But it's just all very weird, isn't it? And and as you say, it's like you can't really compute how. Well, what did you expect me? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yes, there's the money, but on the other side of things, well, as we've talked about on here loads, like, it's not all about that, is it?
Exactly. And look, I'm guessing the people who are running the league and you know the Saudi royal family or whatever is in charge, they'll be trying desperately to stop these players leaving, because it's not a good look, is it? 6 months later saying we're out.
No, it certainly isn't. Well, listen, as ever, if you could like the show, if you could subscribe to the channel, if you could spread the word across social media about this being a thing, we'd be very grateful for you to do that. We'd also like you to go and watch the other stuff that we do as the Late Challenge. There is every week a free show on YouTube, not always footy related, although it will be this week. We're talking about the FA Cup. There's also a Patreon show as well, and if you'd like to throw in on the Patreon, that is a way to help keep all this going, because guess what, we can't do this for free.
Help us pay for some heat.
yeah, you never know. We might get some heating. Thanks very much for all the nice comments. I did have someone telling me that they were surprised by how many of the comments we get are positive compared to other platforms. It doesn't go missing for us as well that we get lots of positive feedback. Really like it. I had a bit of a moan the other week. I haven't even told you this about some of the shit stuff that we get because obviously, the internet's the internet, and it was really nice that a lot of people took time to come and find me, send me direct messages and say, listen, I love what you do. It's great. I tune in every week. I just don't always comment, but I thought I'd tell you because it looked like the negative shit was getting you down a bit. So
that's nice.
Really appreciate that as well. And yeah, hopefully we can keep the whole thing going. Keep tuning in live at 5. And also remember as well, if you've joined in late, you can go back to the start. You can listen to it as a podcast, which will come out a bit later on as well. So share that with your mates and all that. And hopefully we can keep it all going. Thanks very much. That's been live at 5. Lol at Arsenal.